Plugin of the week is the CLA Effects. The CLA Effects is part of the Signature series by Waves, and this is the effects-driven portion of the Chris Lord-Alge Signature series. The basic plugin layout is the same as the initial 4 Signature series plugins that came out. So the Chris Lord-Alge, Eddie Kramer, Tony Maserati, and Jacques Joseph Puig all came about in similar timings, and they have a similar design and basic layout in terms of their functionality. The Manny Marroquin series of plugins, which is also part of the Signature series, has a slightly varied design in that the prior 4 really focus on specific instruments. They all have their setups for drums, for guitars, for vocals, etc. Whereas the Manny Marroquins are more set up for equalization, reverb, that type of thing. So this particular one by Chris Lord-Alge is basically a lot of the effects processing techniques that he uses in the form of a simplified interface with some kind of cool features. So when you instantiate the plugin to start off with, you can either do it in send return mode, meaning that you feed a send off of a bus or a pair of buses into an auxiliary channel of some kind and instantiate the processor on the insert. And in that case, normally what you will do is you will deselect the direct button here, which will mean that there is no direct signal included with the effects processing. So if you actually insert this on the insert of the vocal track or whatever instrument it is that you want to process, then you will have the direct button in, and that will allow the dry signal to pass through. Now, what is slightly different about this plugin from some of the others is that the first 2 sliders here, which are EQ and distortion, only affect the direct signal. So if you are using it in send return mode, this is the one instance where you'll want to have the direct in, and you would only have it in if you're trying to apply some kind of an equalization or distortion effect to the dry signal. Then you have reverb, short delay, long delay, and pitch control. The long delay, you notice, is a slightly different color here. So we got this little bit of a metallic blue here, and this connects with the switch over here, which determines how those long delays are added in. So normally it is set to off by default, but if I have it in the hold setting, what happens is those delays are constantly going. And if you decide to use throw mode, then you'll see it's a temporary thing that as long as you click on it, it will actually flip over and send a delay. So this is like a delay throw. So you could actually automate, select just particular words or phrases that you want to have delays on, and just click on it for that amount of time and let go. And if you write that into the automation, it will play it back consistently. Now this is done in such a way where it's not a direct on-off thing like a mute switch. It actually has a slight ramp up or fade in and fade out on it, and as would happen if you were just pushing a fader that would be feeding a send going into delays. So it gives you a slightly varied way of processing or sending the signal. So that's kind of unique and actually a very cool feature. Now, the way that you work this is it starts with the input and the input sensitivity knob. You also have a balance control for the stereo input, and you have an output control. So what happens here is that based on the amount of signal from the send feeding into it, there is sort of an optimized range where you get the most out of the effects that are shown here. And the basic idea is that if I get this into the green, it'll give a little bit of effect. Yellow, you'll hear more effect. That's like a good area. Orange or amber colored, you'll get sort of an optimized setting so that, it's kind of like the idea then is that, or red, we'll just kind of continue it, and that would be sort of an overloading, sort of overdriving the effects. Basically, especially with analog processors, but even with digital processors, there's sort of an optimized range or level that you want to feed into the device. And every device has a certain sweet spot that makes it most effective or most efficient in terms of the way that it works, okay? And this is really important because if you ignore that, then you're really not getting the best part out of a plugin or particularly of emulation of a particular piece of analog gear. So this comes from these settings here come from a variety of different settings that Chris Lord-Alge likes to use and they've been emulated and put into a simplified form that you see here. So the way that the sliders work is that you can have more or less of a given effect. So the default position is this 0 position here, and the effect is engaged unless you actually turn it off. You can go through the series of selections just by clicking on the button here, and it will go through, for example, with the EQ, a top EQ, a filtered EQ, or a telephone EQ. And if you click on any of these, you can just either select them or deselect them. And so when you take it out, there will be no equalization effect added in. So otherwise, by default, they all come on. And so you can actually start by turning everything off and starting with just some basic effects. So let's just start with a little bit of an EQ, and then we can kind of hear. So well, let's just kind of start by getting our sound.
There's a world
there we
kept
go.
secret. I know many won't believe it. It makes your body much stronger, helps your life last longer.
Now, because this is feeding in, and I'm just going to do this to show you or simulate the effect of it by taking this out of the output. So now it's only going through the CLA effects, and then you'll hear what this is doing on the EQ.
There's a world kept secret. I know many won't believe it.
So this is really adding
It
top
makes your body
end.
much stronger.
That's filtering.
Helps your life last longer. Better than any medication. Cures any situation.
And in this case, what this is doing is it's sweeping the frequencies and also giving us an error message.
There's a world kept secret. I know many won't believe it.
All right, that's more of an amount kind of thing. And then we have the telephone, which is also a filtered type of effect.
There's a world kept secret. I know many won't believe it. It makes your body much stronger.
And you can, define how much you want to exaggerate the effect here. If we want, we can also distort it. So if we put drive in here, then this will add a little.
There's a world kept secret. I know many won't believe it. It makes your body much stronger. Helps your life
And then there are
last
different levels of
longer.
it. This is crunch.
Better than any medication. Cures any situation. Frequencies and vibration.
So you get a range of different sounds with the direct signal. So if we were starting from this place, we could then go ahead and add reverb to this. And so this would put a room effect on it, which probably would be
There's a world kept secret. I know many won't believe it.
versus a hall
It makes your body much stronger. Helps your life last
or a canyon.
longer. Better than any medication. Cures any situation.
And so we can mix in how much of this that we want. We could put a little slap effect in here.
There's a world kept secret. I know many won't believe it.
And we can
It
go
makes your body much
eighth note
stronger.
delays,
Helps your life last
dotted
longer.
eighths.
Better than any medication. Cures any situation. Frequencies and vibrations. That's the power of love.
And then what we can do is we could also put in a tape phase, chorus, or widening effect. So this is just a way of adding some
There's a world
width,
kept secret. I know many won't believe it.
sort of like this is like an effect with, it's like a static chorus effect where you get some width, a little pitch shifting on either side with a short delay, but no modulation. Whereas a chorus effect will have some modulation in it, and you'll get a little bit more of a phasing, sweeping kind of sound.
I know many won't believe it. It makes your body much stronger.
So this is more of like a,
Last longer.
closer to a slap
Better
effect.
than any medication. Cures any situation. Frequencies and vibrations. That's the power of love.
So when we have this now, we can also add in delays or delay throws here. So if I put this on hold, it'll just be.
There's a world kept secret. I know many won't believe it. It makes your body much stronger.
So that would be on all the time, but if I use the delay throw, I can just put it for particular words.
There's a world kept secret. I know many won't believe it. It makes your body much stronger. Helps your life last longer. Better than any medication. Cures any situation. Frequency.
And this way you can selectively decide which words that you want it on. And if you just, do a simple, write this into the automation, when you program in those delay throws, you can edit them if they're a little bit off, and basically have them programmed in, because it's just a simple thing that has the sort of fade in, fade out characteristic kind of added in. So if I take this out now and go back to my normal output, and let's just take these guys out for right now, and then we would have the pure just delay.
There's a well-kept secret,
and I want to take the direct out.
Many won't believe it.
And now we're in true send return mode without any of the distortion effects. So if I want to include the distortion or anything like that, or the filtering like I had here, it will feed into, it'll still feed that into the effects. But if we want to hear that dry distortion, then we'll hit the direct button. So there's a direct correlation here between the direct button and these guys. And one of the things is that if you have all of these other effects out, the only way that you will hear the distortion and EQ effects is if the direct button is in. And if it's out, then that will happen and feed the effects, but you won't get the dry signal. So if all of that makes sense, the signal flow basically comes in, hits the direct button, and that determines whether the direct signal, distorted and EQ'd, feeds the output, or if it just feeds the effects. That's the basic way that it's set up. But it's a very cool plugin. I think just one other thing that I wanted to show you, because I actually didn't set the input level, which is one of the parts that's important here, but
there's a well-kept secret,
but you could hear,
many won't believe it. It makes your body much stronger, helps your life last longer, better than any medication, cures any situation, frequencies and vibrations.
So you can see almost like with all of this, I had to crank it up more just to get to some of the amber levels. So there might be a somewhat lower level kind of coming into it. And if there's just too much in terms of the gain, I can make that up down here. And you can see here how it's kind of kicking in red sometimes there. So that's usually overdriving it a little bit more. Not like from the distortion side of things, but from the processing side of things. So are you hitting the sweet spot, or are you overshooting it, which is red, or are you slightly below it, or somewhere more conservative? And that's what the color of that LED stands for. Okay, there you have it. The Chris Lord-Alge CLA effects, that part of the Signature series by Waves. Really cool plugin, and not a bad one to throw if you're just searching for a quick vibe, or just trying to figure out how to grab an effect, or go have a whole variety of effects in a single plugin because you're not sure what you want to do. And this allows you to go through a lot of options very quickly. And they sound good as well, so you can keep them if you like them. All right, there it is, CLA effects by Waves.